0 record up against the Truth's 28 undefeated fight streak to their common opponent Kell Brook favoring Crawford, here's why Terence Crawford will dominate Errol Spence Jr. I'm gonna kick things off with the basics here, the stats. Now, I know numbers alone can't predict a fight, but still, they're a pretty good place to start to get a rundown of the fighter's abilities. In this bout, on the one hand, you've got Spence, who holds the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles, while on the other, it's Crawford, who's held the WBO welterweight title since 2018. So this matchup has two of the world's best welterweights poised to go at each other. Neither of the two fighters has ever had a professional loss in their career, so one of them is gonna lose their undefeated status once all of this is over. The winner will be awarded the undisputed welterweight title, and they will also have a legitimate claim to the pound-for-pound throne. Now, here comes the big question. How are the champs looking? Well, let's go over their physiques. Spence is 5 feet 9.5 inches, with a reach of 72 inches, while Crawford stands at 5 foot 8 inches with a 74-inch reach. Right off the bat, Spence has got the height, but Crawford can trump him in reach. Another thing is that Crawford's slightly older, which means he's almost exiting his prime. But Spence isn't far behind. They're just a couple of years apart. Some think that the two should have had their time in the ring earlier on, but neither of them is in decline yet, so it's all good. But if you add up all the facts, they're heavily in favor of Crawford. Although, as far as their boxing abilities go, I've gotta say, Spence can sure throw a jab. If you've seen the guy battle it out against Garcia, you'll know just how well he understands the fundamentals of the sport. He can maneuver his opponents and have his power and bodywork deliver devastation on his rivals. Plus, he uses his size to his advantage, which, combined with his skills, is a great weapon in the ring. But Crawford could totally take on the Truth. Why? Well, Bud's got some tricks up his sleeve too. Sure, Spence is bigger, but Crawford's boxing style is complete, which means he's got the ability to understand his opponent's style and then adapt to it. He does this by utilizing his own range of techniques, which include power fighting, counter-punching, defense maneuverability, infighting, and applying pressure. It's a style the fighter has worked on for years, and you can have a look at any one of his fights to see just how well it serves him. Spence likes to get into it by throwing left-hand shots to the body and the head. Plus, he uses his footwork to set up a methodical distance between him and his foe. Now, this can confuse less aggressive fighters, but Crawford can shift stances like a magician and has an impressive range, meaning he can work with his rival. Also, Crawford can comfortably implement all his techniques even with a change in stance, which makes him the better boxer. And when you add his incredible punching power to the mix, then Crawford is a winning package. Errol has had 28 total wins, and 22 of them came from a knockout, while Crawford has won 39 fights, with 30 of those being knockout wins. The numbers don't lie, you guys. Clearly, Terence has got an anchor for an arm, because you can't make that many fighters go nighty-night without an insane amount of power. Fun fact, neither of the fighters gives immediate action. Instead, usually, their fights have several rounds of activity and pressure before their rivals drop. Spence is famous for unleashing painful body shots. His right hook could break a weaker man's spirit. But this is Crawford we're talking about. He uses his underrated jab to apply pressure and set up one of his deadly left or right hooks. And let me tell you, he's used those to shake down many of his opponents. Plus, Crawford plays boxer's chess. You can see him feint with his right hand at times to keep his rival guessing. Combine that level of technique and experience, and Terence could take down Spence after breaking down his boxing game. Once he gets in there, Crawford is relentless. Also, it's the same IQ that makes Bud's defense so good. I'll admit it, Spence and Crawford aren't exactly defense masterminds, but neither of them have ever lost a fight, so they're clearly doing something right. Sure, Errol's defense guard isn't his strongest suit, but he's got good head movement and footwork that help him to limit the damage. When he effectively employs this tactic, it's hard to hit the guy. But up against Crawford, that isn't gonna cut it. You see, Terence is a master when it comes to footwork. It doesn't matter if he's moving in a straight line or if he's trying to get his rival from the side. He might be on the receiving end of a single shot or two, but raining punches on him is almost impossible. That's because he uses his southpaw stance to counterhook with his lead hand. Also, Crawford's counterpunching can be an issue for orthodox fighters because he uses right hooks. After using all of this, once Bud has him where he wants him, it's chaos. He goes full offense and even changes stances to catch his opponents off guard. This advantage makes him the better defender. And from this place of security, he'll target Spence and grab his title. With a fight so well matched, fighting mentality really matters. And Crawford's totally got the edge there too. Every fighter goes in with their eyes on the prize, but the mentality is more about the background of a fighter, what they've been going through, and what they plan to bring into the ring. With Errol, it's all about hands down, man down. That means if a fighter's hands are down, Spence takes a shot at dismantling him. So Spence tries to find a break into their defense and takes it from there. Crawford is totally different though. He goes right to his opponent and picks at him until there's an opening to strike. He figures out the rhythm and the movement and works with that. With a technique like that, he becomes stronger as the rounds progress. Terence plays it smart, instead of waiting for a break in the defense. Because of the way he tunes into the fight, he'll totally have an upper edge on Spence's tactics. Also, both the fighters last fought in late 2022. And with their fight scheduled for the 29th of July, 2023, they'll be entering the arena after quite a while. But in that time, Errol has had eye surgery and been in a pretty devastating car crash, which means he's got a lot to sort through. This stuff affects performance, which means that Crawford's got the upper hand as far as fight mentality is concerned. The pros also agree that Terence is in for the win. Mike Tyson weighed in and offered his prediction, saying that he believed Crawford was gonna come out on top. Iron Mike shared that he'd seen both of the fighters in their element, but the way Crawford had dispatched Shawn Porter had really made an impression on him. Mike added that nobody did to Porter what Terence had managed to do, which is why he saw him as the stronger one. Showtime has fought both Crawford and Spence, so his opinion holds a lot of weight. Spence gave Shawn a hard time in 2019, when he chose to stay in the pocket and continue brawling. And let me tell you, that beating changed Porter. He shared that he'd bet his life and a lot of money on Terence beating Errol. But that isn't the only fighter who's fought both the men and picked Crawford. There's also Kell Brook. Talking to Fight Hype, Kell admitted that Spence could punch harder, but he thought Crawford was gonna win. He referenced Terence's fight with Porter and said you gotta see him as the winner. But he also added that styles could decide fights. But with Spence's retina injury, his bet was Crawford. The legendary Manny Pacquiao shared his thoughts too. Pac-Man also picked Terence as the winner and added that he thought it was going to be a 12-round decision. Pacquiao also said that Crawford had the style advantage over Spence. But how the fighters prepared for their bout could be the deciding factor too. And guess who else spoke in favor of a Crawford win? Oscar De La Hoya. The Golden Boy commented that going by style, Terence shines over his opponent. He added that Crawford could totally dissect Errol's one-dimensional style, since he was more versatile with punches and bunches and could hit with his combination throws. Now, if that hasn't convinced you, Canelo Alvarez, the man whose title is up for grabs after the bout, he says that Crawford's got it in the bag. So, from their common opponent, Kell Brooks, favoring Crawford, to Bud's 39-0 record up against the Truth's 28 undefeated fight streak, that's why Terence Crawford will dominate Errol Spence Jr.